Hi everyone, it's Jason here from iMentor, and today I'm just going to record a short video clip just explaining a little bit about accruals. Now accruals is always a little bit of a sticky area for some, but it's fairly easy to explain, so I'm hoping that this clip today will help you just even a little bit. So I'm going to use the same spreadsheet that I used before. Now don't worry too much about the figures that I've got on the spreadsheet, on the profit and loss and on the balance sheet at the moment. This exercise, this video clip today, is purely to explain how accruals work. So don't worry about the fact there's a negative balance sheet and negative profit and loss account, etc, etc. This is just really just to explain how accruals work. So we've got Fred Bloggs here as a sole trader. Now let's assume that Fred Bloggs pays £4,000 a year in rent. So he pays £1,000 a quarter. So his year end is the 31st of December. So he pays £1,000 in March. He pays £1,000 in June, he pays £1,000 in September, and he pays £1,000 in December. That's his 4 quarters, £4,000 rent, £1,000 a quarter. So whatever happens, £4,000 has to go in the profit and loss at the end of the year as rent. Whether he's paid it or not, that's his rent charge for the year. Now, although his rent quarters fall on March, June, September and December, sometimes he may be a couple of days late paying. So for his last quarter, December, although there's going to be £1,000 due at the end of December and it needs to be shown in the profit and loss account, it's possible that he might not have paid it until the first couple of days of January. Now, in ordinary circumstances, whenever he's paid that rent, that's when it would show in the accounts. So if he paid his rent, let's say 3rd of January, then it would show in the accounts on the 3rd of January. But for this purpose, we have to show it in the accounts at the end of December because that's what it relates to. The £1,000 for the quarter ended December has to be shown in the profit and loss account in December, regardless of the fact that he paid it in January. So that is where accruals come in. We have to accrue that last quarter of £1,000 rent in the accounts, and this is how we do it. So at the moment, as I say, don't worry too much about the loss figure or the negative balance sheet. As long as the balance sheet balances, then we're fine. So at the moment, the profit and loss account shows rent of £3,000. So that's for the first 3 quarters. That's for March, June and September. So we've now got December's rent of £1,000. Sorry, the quarter ended December for £1,000. Now let's say Fred doesn't pay that until the first few days of January, but we still need to show it in the accounts. And that's where accruals come in. So we have to show that £1,000 in the profit and loss, so that rent has to show £4,000 because that is the correct rental charge for the year. So what we do, I've put on my little my rent T account here, quarter 4, because we have to put it in the accounts. So I'm going to put £1,000 in there. It's an expense, and as you can see from dead click above, increasing an expense is a debit. So the £1,000 goes in there. So the rent account is now correct, £4,000. So we're going to change the rent on the profit and loss to £4,000. So we're going to add another £1,000 in there, like so. Okay. So obviously now things need to balance. Now the rent hasn't been paid at the end of December, so there's no credit entry in the bank account. So we have to credit an accruals T account, which is right here. And accruals is a liability account. It's a liability account because it's owing. And if you're increasing a liability account, as you'll see from dead click, it's a credit. So that £1,000 has to go in there as a liability. So we now, on our balance sheet, we need to have a heading for accruals, and we need to put £1,000 in there like that. Balance sheet now balances. So at the end of December, we've got a correct rental charge of £4,000, but we've got an accrual of £1,000 because it's owing at the end of December and it's not paid till the first few days of January. So when we come to actually paying this rent of £1,000 in the first few days of January, it's not actually going to show as a debit in the rent account because we've already accrued for it. So that debit will go on the debit side of the accruals account. So when we pay it, the entry will be credit bank, debit accruals. So hopefully that's not too simplistic. Hopefully that has explained accruals a little bit better for you. As I say, it's not too difficult, but it is an area that does get tricky with some. So that's accruals. So we're going to leave that there for now. Hopefully that's helped.